Now, on this program, we talk a lot about population. We talk about immigration. We talk about whether Australia has too many people for the services that currently exist. Now, anyone who is living in suburban Australia knows that the pressure is huge and has been for a long time. And every time there is a poll about immigration in Australia, be it under a Liberal or Labor government, but particularly in the past 3 years, the same thing is said. Stop, pause, cut. Because we know that for every person who's brought in, it's another person who's fighting for a place when it comes to a rental home, bidding it at auction, getting their kids into school. 50% of Australians believe that immigration has made them poorer. They are correct, because our living standards are some of the worst that we have seen in decades. And almost half of Australians, they believe that migration is too high, yet it keeps coming because big business wants the customers, big government wants the taxpayers, and bugger the rest of us who have to put up with it. Hundreds of thousands of people come to this country each and every year, about 1 million since this mob came to power. We know that Tony Burke is doing his best to clear the backlog, which is code for getting as many people into the system and able to vote as soon as possible. Of course, in those big recent ceremonies, no Liberal representation. Let's just pretend it's one-party rule. Net migration under Labor, first year, 518,000. Second year, 446,000. And you put those numbers together, you're close to 1 million. We don't have full numbers for the financial year of 24-25, but I guarantee it'll put it up and over 1 million. Australia's population has wildly grown in what would feel like a blink of an eye for those of us that have been around for a little while. Australia's population is now 27 million people, but it wasn't always thus. In 1995, it was 18.2 million people. 10 years later, it was 20.4. Then it was 23.9. And in the past 10 years, a big jump, 27.2 million people. That is a huge number of people that have come to the country and, yes, have been born here, but more people are coming than are being born here, all because, as I say, big business wants the customers, big government wants the taxes. Well, believe it or not, even on taxpayer media, they are noticing that people have had enough. Not because they care about where people come from, what they believe, what their skin colour is, what religion they do or don't practice, but because the more people you add to an already long queue, you make the queues longer and the prices keep going up. In fact, a report which was released today, summarised by the ABC, is worth reading here. Over the past 20 years, Australia's population has grown by 35%. This is significantly higher than OECD countries. The average of those is just 13%. It's faster than countries like Canada, up 27%, and New Zealand, up 30%. We're up 35% in just 20 years. They say, this being the report, that population pressures have increased housing demand and supply has failed to keep up, and public support for immigration has seemingly declined in the recent cost of living crisis. I'm glad they've noticed what we have all been living and we've been talking about on this program, well, what feels like an infinitum. All of that does add to the number of people who, as I say, are trying to bid for fewer rental homes than have ever been available in Australia. Now, you can say that it's all about people who don't rent their houses up for 6 and 12 months because they do Airbnb. That's not true. The more people come, the fewer houses that are available, the cost of those houses goes up because the landlord, who of course is paying for 12 interest rate rises under this mob, has seen the amount they have to pay on the mortgage to pay off the rental home going up by tens of thousands of dollars. And today, the number of homes that are being built to match the more than 1 million people that have come in the month of January, just 16,500 building approvals. We're talking about homes, we're talking about units, we're talking about the private sector, we're talking about the public sector. The numbers do not add up, but the government just does not care. Why? Because it's all about more taxpayers to make it look like the economy is growing, and big business loves it because they see it as more customers. For those of us, again, in the real world, it's just more people is more pressure. Again, this is a country that is built on migration. I understand its purpose. I understand its importance. I understand our need for skills because for generations we've told kids that somehow you're failing at life if you're going to wear a tool belt as opposed to a smug look on your face because you've got an arts degree. We've got things very wrong for a very long time. To see that OECD report saying that Australia is up 35%, when other countries are barely up 20%, tells you the whole problem. Yes, the coalition is the ones that are promising to cut that number, but by all accounts, that number's probably not going to be enough. Wait and watch this space, because this is going to be a big election issue, whether the establishment class say we are racist for talking about it or not, because we are not. We just want to maintain the lifestyle that means that when you have a kid, they're able to get a rental property. When you work hard, you're able to eventually buy a home. More people, more competition, fewer homes, higher prices.